Welcome, AI developer in pain. You can confess to me. I know your sin, my AI builder. You have tons of ideas but can't decide which one to actually sell. Well, today I'm giving you 3 of the 10 factors to evaluate a market. Subscribe to the channel because in the next 2 videos I'll cover the remaining 7 factors. So grab pen and paper and note down these steps. You'll score each from 1 to 10 based on how good or bad the factor is for a specific market. Even if you are already in business and want to launch a new product or service, running through these steps will keep you from making mistakes and let you know exactly what you're doing. Everything here applies whether you're selling AI solutions, software as a service, coaching, education, or anything else. My goal is to help you to choose the best path for you and reflect on whether the choices you have already made or you are about to make will lead to success or failure and whether they are sustainable in the long run. In fact, we want products or services that sell in the long term and form a business that's sustainable over time, not some one-shot thing that sells today and who knows tomorrow. My name is Luigi, yes, just like Super Mario's Luigi, and you can probably pick up an Italian accent. I've been a digital marketer since 2019 and now I'm joining the AI revolution, currently building a software as a service. But let's get started with the video. Step 1. How important and or urgent is the problem you solve? I hammer on this point because it's the foundation. What's the problem our target segment have, or that even keeps our potential customer up at night that our product or service will solve? Especially in the early phase when we need to monetize quickly, our primary target should be the person who obviously needs our product because they have a clear pain point and better yet, they are actively looking for a solution. We want these people to shorten the sales cycle and the prospect incubation time. So we must know who we are talking to, how to speak to them, and how our product fixes the problem. The more important the problem is to our potential customer and the more common it is among many people, the easier it will be to sell. You'll have more pricing flexibility and this will lead you to the most important thing in business: high margins. Another key element here is urgency. How much of a hurry is the buyer in to fix their problems? If the problem is common but not urgent, prospect can wait a long time before acting. In this case, we need strong reasons to make them act now, not later. Show what happens if they delay and push them to buy as soon as possible. We need to shorten the incubation time, that is the time span that occurs from initial interest to purchase. How? Craft the sales message, assets, and sales process carefully. In this case, we are gonna manipulate the timing by providing additional info in follow-ups, educational marketing in parallel, explaining why we are the best choices and, above all, why they must act now. Obviously, we can only do this if the problem truly matters to the user. So, when choosing a market or a subsegment to attack or analyzing services you already offer, think hard about this point. The problem is that many founders launch without asking whether the market truly needs that product. They may be investing in something that won't succeed simply because no one understands what it actually solves. Generally, what we solve ties directly or indirectly to money earned or saved, time freed, so we can say convenience, well-being, and of course relationships, status, etc. etc. For example, if you want to create a school to learn AI building, the problem is that many people want to monetize the new AI trend quickly before it's too late, so in this case it's money and fear of missing out. Or could also be time, because with AI you can speed up processes in everything. Okay, how many people have this problem? Still relatively few, but it's absolutely growing. I've made other videos on figuring out what your target truly wants. Quantity-wise, you can use simple tools like Google Trends and keyword tools to study if there is interest in a topic. We'll cover this in the next point. And also try to develop your entrepreneurial sixth sense too. I think this is really important. Of course, ask advanced AI models what they think of your idea. For example, I ask a lot to GPT-03 for help on these subjects. Skip this step and you're leaving your business success to chance. But now let's move on to step 2. How big is your market? When we choose to place our product or service in a specific market, we need to know how big that market is. How do we figure it out? You can watch for TAM, SAM, and SOM, terms for total and segmented market size. You can search for industry data and reports. You can also test with ads by pushing up the budget to understand the response, but that's outside the scope of this video. And of course, you can use the tools I mentioned earlier. Take advantage of the AI powerful analyzer skills. Another crucial factor is understanding the market's demo and psychographic. Mostly women or men? What age? How do they behave? The larger the audience, the more customers we can acquire, obviously. But if the audience is large yet lacks decision power or can't afford the product, we still won't sell. For example, a resume and a LinkedIn profile writing service for the average person who has lost their job as a target. The market is huge, but can you charge a high fee to someone unemployed? Maybe with a software or a tool with no ongoing cost for you at an accessible price could work, making money on the volume instead of per transaction. You would then need to assess whether the project is worthwhile and if acquisition costs are manageable. On the opposite, we can sell to a small audience, leaning on exclusivity and going super specific. There are huge advantages. A focused position enabling sharper marketing, standardized delivery, and operations for a smaller target, meaning the service stays consistent without custom variations. A specific niche often allows greater price flexibility. In my view, drilling deep vertical on a specific market segment makes a lot of sense, especially with AI and software as a services. That being said, reaching tiny targets can cost more in promotion. Knowing our audience size lets us weigh these trade-offs and choose one product over another. The wider the audience, the lower our average customer acquisition cost can go, but watch out your margins. On the opposite, a narrower, higher spending audience lets us command higher prices, usually, but the pool of prospect is smaller. And now let's move on step 3 of the video. What's the price, and above all, how much pricing flexibility do we have? Price is the foundational characteristic of our product or service. More than anything else, price is the key between success and failure. We have to find out the price that leads us to maximum benefit. Especially in a bootstrapped business, positioning in the high end makes sense, since we need cash for expansion when we lack external funding. Because of course, every customer costs something to acquire. The more margin we have, the more we can spend to get new customer, and that's crucial. And remember, quoting directly one of my business teachers, Dan Kennedy, whoever can spend the most money to acquire a customer wins. That's really important. Of course, on the other side, too high of a price might mean too few sales. To know whether your price is right, think again about your target audience. Remember, this is one unified discussion. The factors in this video and the next videos are all interconnected. We can say that for sure a high price is supported by a problem, desire that's strongly felt and urgent. A specific niche positioning making us specialists for a given segment or niche. Our target. How do people in the target audience behave? What decision-making criteria do they use? Do they value exclusivity and quality, or are they more price sensitive? Next, how the offer is presented. Do we have a solid sales copy and a robust sales process? And of course, other elements we'll cover. So take in mind, price is always part of a broader strategy. If you are a technical founder, this might sound abstract, but compare a prospect that hits a random landing page, bounces and is never contacted again, versus a well-designed follow-up sequence, a consistent message at every step, from the first email to the sales video landing page, to follow-ups emails, to a sales call with a good salesman, all this surrounded by attractive sales materials that speak directly to the target's pain point and desires, showing up to the call confident and appropriately dressed. I can swear to you that all these little things add up to big results. In general, where people want something, the money magically appears. The iPhone proves it. It's on us to make the value clear. Also, if you cut the price too much, you risk losing margins and positioning, perceived value. Once you have thought it through, test prices, there is no other way. And remember, prices can be adjusted and modified later if handled properly. That's it for this video. Subscribe to the channel because I'll publish videos explaining the remaining 7 points for evaluating a market and an idea. See you!